Welcome to the Pinning Combination podcast. A little bit different look, as you can see, as all of us are kind of in our home station, I guess. I'm KJ Pilcher, if you didn't know, joined by Dick Briggs and Wyatt Schultz of the Predicament. The last time, guys, we were huddled together at Briggs' dining room table. Pandemic had just canceled the NCAA championships and everything. And boy, what a crazy, 10 months it really has been, not just in wrestling and the sports world, but just in general, hasn't it?
It's been crazy, and if you really stop and think about it, we only got 2 months left, before the Nationals. And I guess it's going to go fast anyway. It always does once the season gets started. And then to think that the college season is only a couple months away. Right.
Yeah. And that says it perfectly. We finally, I'll take that back. NAIA's been wrestling, right?
Right.
But the NCAA seasons are whittled down to 11 or 12 weeks max. And, preps have been going on. We'll touch on both of those. The college, that getting started, and high school down the road here. We're going to include a couple. We're going to kind of resurrect one of the features from before. Coach Briggs will have You Make the Call, which I always look forward to when I get him right, that is. When I get him wrong, not so much. But and then we've talked to some people through social media, got some fun questions. We're going to have a little fun in between the two segments. But let's just go ahead and jump right in. Some teams have gotten started. We've mentioned NAIA's started, but as far as NCAA teams, Iowa State and Wartburg really kind of kicked things off here in the state with a duel last Sunday.
Yeah, and obviously Wartburg, very strong in Division III, perennial powerhouse and multi-time national champion. It's good to see Nathan with the Wartburg sign behind that. Anyway, the thing that I was curious as I go, boy, is this the year to be wrestling Iowa State? Here at Wartburg, because Iowa State has, as we have talked about many times, they have grown, and this year they're a top 10 team for sure. They're ranked anywhere from 3rd to 9th, I think I've seen in various rankings, and they deserve that. Somewhere in between there, I think, is where they belong right now, and that's correct. So, and I got to witness it firsthand. The arena was sparsely sold, I'll say, and they had plenty of space between groups, and you could only buy tickets in the packages of 2 or 4. So they did a good job of that. But I'm happy that they allowed people in. If they didn't allow them in and still had wrestling like I think is going to happen at Iowa, I'm all right with that, as long as the kids get an opportunity to compete. So, you talked about the pandemic. It's changed how wrestling and athletics have looked, and certainly no difference with the college athletics. It was fun that Wartburg and Iowa State got to kick it off last Saturday, and it's fun to be there.
Yeah, and of course, just going through things, Iowa State came away with 8 victories. Some of the familiar faces in the lineup for Iowa State, Gannon Gremmel, who I think is going to be counted on as one of the leaders there. David Carr, obviously, coming off outstanding freshman season. Those two took care of business. And then Gremmel's major decision over Jordan Brandon, that's a pretty nice victory. Alex Mackel at 125 is back, obviously. Couple things that really kind of and Ian Parker. A couple things that stand out. Ian Parker had a really nice win with a major decision over Chris Rump, who certainly is one of the top D3 wrestlers at the weight. No, Austin Gomez. Last week he announced that he was going to have to medically forfeit. I think concussions kind of caught up with him and kind of cut his career short, his competitive career short. Jarrett Dagan wasn't in at 149. I think he's kind of getting over some injuries. But there are some kind of new faces that really kind of stood out. And one of them might be somebody to keep an eye on, and Younger Bastida at 197. He got a win 15-8 over Kobe Woods. I believe he's Cuban.
He's only been in it 40 days.
Yeah, so he's somebody that's getting used to folk style even. I think it's one of those things where he's learning the different discipline, freestyle or by trade pretty much. And, he was part of that Iowa State contingent that looked good on that in that first duel.
Right. You had 4 kids in their lineup, in the Iowa State lineup, that had wrestled in Hilton prior to last Saturday. The 4 that you mentioned. And then, but Iowa State is deep. They held out 2 of their All-Americans. You mentioned Dagan, but that Robinson that wrestled for him was ahead of Dagan in the wrestle-off, and then Dagan scored a last-second takedown to beat him 7-6, I think, or something like that. So that no slouch at all. And both of them are – he's only about an inch or 2 shorter than Dagan, who's about 6'3", I think, at 149. Those are too tall.
So you get that length and leverage on a lot of people.
Right. And so, Iowa State was also missing Cole Bray, who's, I think, going to be at 84. They cut him down to 74 last year, but I think that was not a good cut, and I think he'll be at 84 eventually. Like I said, they are deep. Now, you mentioned Batista, is it, or the Cuban? Bastida. Thank you, Bastida. He is. They didn't wrestle off. I'm not sure why not, but also remember Coleman has bumped up to 97 also. So that just kind of shows you how deep they are. You got 2 All-Americans that didn't even wrestle, and they didn't skip a beat. And I don't know if those All-Americans plus Coleman will make the lineup. We'll have to wait and see. But Iowa State has got a great program right now, and they're deep.
And Wyatt, this is kind of what just kind of what Dresser has been building for, right? I mean, he's got a good mix of some local guys there with Gremmel and others. He's got some nationally ranked guys, but that rebuilding process, you knew it was going to take a while, but this is starting to look what they kind of had envisioned when he came to resurrect the program a little bit.
Right. Like Dick said, they're pretty deep. And the other thing that I guess I happened to notice was the Iowans in there, with for Wartburg, of course, you had Mulder, but then he wrestled Isaac Judge from, I believe he's from South Tama. And that's the one thing that I noticed. And then to be as deep as they are, they're just going to be a force this year already with that depth. Like Dick said, or you guys brought up, Coleman's not in the lineup. As a returning qualifier, All-American, whatever, but they're just solid. And Gremmel really looks good at heavyweight. I think he could be an All-American by the end of the year.
And you bring up a really, really good point about that depth. And listening to coaches talk on their respective media days, that depth is going to be key this season more than anything. Even though it's a short season, so many things are uncertain with COVID-19 still. And you don't know when. I mean, it's a lesson that everybody learned the hard way in March. You don't know when all of a sudden you're not going to be able to go. And then you have contact tracing. You don't know, okay, he can't go. Who was he in contact with? All right, well, that takes care of our number 1 and number 2 guy. We have to plug in our number 3 guy at a certain weight just because of the situation for 10 to 14 days. That depth is going to be crucial this season more than maybe any other season that these programs have had.
Yeah, and also you don't know what, just like you said, you don't know when that last day is going to be. So they're going to be ready to go at all times. Even with the other media days, like Schwab was saying, you got you got to be ready right now. And I guess I get a kick out of the fact that they're going to be taking extra guys at these duels now and giving them there's a lot of open tournaments that didn't happen this year. So it's nice that they're given the opportunity to at least compete, at least get a match in.
Right.
That's pretty cool. That happened at Iowa State. They wrestled the A team, and then they followed it up with a B team duel. And then after that, they even had 5 exhibition matches. So they got in quite a few matches, and I know they're intending to do that next Saturday with we'll talk about in a minute, but they're going to lay 2 mats down because there's 3 teams that are going to be there. And to follow up on a couple of your points, one other depth that we talked about, Austin Gomez having to walk away from the sport competitively. Here's the depth. I think you'll see Todd Small cut down. He wrestled off at 41, and I bet you'll see him cut down to 33. And even if not, the Reading that wrestled, and then they have the Russian, I believe, that's also not too bad. So again, there's 3 pretty solid guys at 33 stepping in for Gomez, who probably was the front runner there. So that's great depth. Also, and then also, as to your point with Iowans, I was looking at this as well, because that was nice to see the Iowans competing against each other in that duel. But I noticed that with the lineups that could happen, Wartburg had 8 to 9. I was looking at the D1 schools. It looks like UNI with their lineup could have 8 to 9 Iowans in there. We'll talk about that in a minute because we've got something special going there at UNI. They do, and then also ISU 3 to 4. Depending on who makes the lineup, and then Iowa, they're so solid, but they have just 1 in there potentially. We don't know what happened at 84, so if Brands is 84, that would be the one guy. So,
one thing at Media Day that was really interesting, David Carr was asked about how he's been training and stuff like that, and he said he's working on some stuff to be more entertaining, to put on more of a show. Now, anybody that's seen Iowa State in the last year or 2 knows that David Carr already was one of probably the most entertaining guy to take the mat, not just on Iowa State's roster, but most of the teams that they face. Can you imagine him being more entertaining? And how did he look Sunday, Dick, when you saw him? Is there even more of a excitement that surrounds him when he's competing?
Yeah, he looked very good. Obviously, he's going to be a threat to win the title there, and it's going to be fun to watch his growth. Though, like we said, with the landscape of the season being shorter, maybe that's good with the COVID. So maybe that'll help. We won't have a chance to have that happen, be as much of a factor through the season with a shortened season. But with Carr, he's solid, man. He's so fun, and and I like that attitude that he wants to make it entertaining. I've had that conversation with my son Kyle, and he doesn't want to win matches 2 to 1 or 3 to 2 or what. He wants them to be, put on points on the board. And so that's neat that wrestlers take that attitude and understand that it's an entertainment issue, so good for them.
Yeah, and we've got to touch on the fact that, Wartburg, obviously, I know this was something that I think when asked, they jumped at the opportunity. Keller was approached. Hey, let's do it. Of course, they went down there and they got 2 victories at 165. Zane Mulder beat Isaac Judge 8-6. Mulder, actually a former Cyclone, now Knight, got a win against his former team, and then Kyle Briggs, a title contender a year ago, actually the last 2 years probably. Unfortunately, didn't get the chance here in Cedar Rapids to do that. He puts up a big win against Julian Broderson, who a lot of people expect some pretty big things from. But he beat Broderson 8-1. Got some back points at the end of the second, and then pulled away in the third.
Yeah, Kyle was pretty dominant on top, and I think that was part of his game plan. And it was nice to see that with Kyle, and he had a major and let him escape. So then I thought he might push it for the major towards the end, and did take a shot or two, but nothing that really threatened to take down.
But speaking of Kyle, and you were talking about Carr as being entertaining, I think both of those guys are the type of individuals or wrestlers that instead of winning 2-1, they could just as well make it 4-2, 10-5, and that's their style. They're just not going to settle for that 2-1 match. And I think at least both of those guys are that way, and even as far as heavyweights, I guess I get a kick out of the fact that Gremmel can win 17-3, as heavyweights.
Put up a lot of points.
Yeah.
See that from the big guys.
That was a bit of a...
What's that, Dick? He must have locked up.
And that's a bit of a size difference there in that match. Not a real tall heavyweight, not a real big heavyweight, and Grummel's a big boy. So that was a bit of a size difference there, for Grummel. It's going to be to his benefit for sure. Looks very good.
So we'll expect some big things out of Iowa State too, as you mentioned, number 9 in the National Wrestling Coaches Association dual poll. One really quick note that we've talked about depth and stuff like that, and kind of the neat format, I guess, with those extra matches. The JV meet, I guess you could classify it as, but you had a secondary match at 141 between the former, 133-pound starter for Iowa State versus a D3 national champ between Todd Small and Brock Rathbun. That's just something you may not have seen, if these two teams had locked horns in the past and stuff. So there are some neat things that have come about this whole situation, and I think that's one of them. You have a match like that maybe you would have seen in an open final, but without opens, this is the way to have it.
Right. And also at 149, I know the Knights are pretty excited also about Zarin Terakina, whose brother wrestled 25 actually for Iowa State. Saturday. So they both wrestled, and they're from Hawaii. So go figure 2 Hawaiians end up in Iowa in this cold winter wrestling. Only wrestling can do that, right? So, but you're right. The quality of wrestling on that B team was fantastic. It was some great matches going on there.
And of course, Iowa State will kind of dip its toes into the D2 and D3 pool again this weekend as well. I think on Sunday they face Loras and then the University of Nebraska Kearney. So kind of a couple nice opportunities for those two programs, and with scheduling, so like the Big Ten isn't scheduling non-conference tournaments. It kind of goes along with what they did for football, even though basketball seemed to be a little bit of a different policy, but they've kind of had to go out and find these other teams, and it's given the D2 teams and D3 teams like Loris, Wartburg, Nebraska Kearney to wrestle, D1
Right.
programs in a D1 facility.
Last weekend it was D1 versus D3. Next weekend in Ames, it's going to be D1, D2, D3. So you've got Powerhouse Iowa State, that's a top 10 team. You've got Nebraska Kearney, who's currently ranked second and is perennially tough, D2. And then you've got Loris, who was ranked anywhere from first to second last year. I mean, who knows where they might have finished had they had the tournament, possibly even won it. So you've got three very tough teams there. It's going to be fun to see what goes on there.
Right.
That's great publicity for those Division 2 and 3 programs to wrestle those Division 1 schools.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was going to be particularly beneficial, like I mentioned with Wartburg, but I think it was. There was a lot to be gained for it. You get your weigh-ins in, you get the routine down, you get the travel for the away teams, or the home team gets to weigh in and then an hour later compete, and all those things that we don't necessarily think of, but they're so important to wrestlers and to coaches, and to get that routine going. So yeah, definitely, it was worth it.
So let's switch gears a little bit, head over to Iowa City. Iowa hasn't stepped on the mat yet. The Big Ten was one of the last conferences, if not the last conference, to release its schedule. But before that, finally had some, unfinished business with the Hodge Trophy finally being presented to Spencer Lee. I tell you what, we've touched on this a lot, and with each thing that comes up, it still just blows my mind how dominant he was last year. A very fitting award to go along with the Sullivan Award that you shared with Ionescu of Oregon women's basketball. Big Ten Wrestler of the Year, Intermats Wrestler of the Year, D1's Most Dominant Wrestler of the Year. You go on and on, but a real special season. However, he was one of the first ones to point out, hey, I'm a Hodge Trophy winner, but I didn't win the NCAA title. So still something for him to prove in his own words there. And I don't know, did you guys see the video of the presentation of the trophy at all?
I did not. I just seen the clips and kind of read about it.
I did see it, and I made me giggle when he said I didn't win a national title. Well, he won 2 prior to that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We take for granted how dominant he was, like you said. And I'm going to throw this is how incredible we take it for granted. J.R. Ogden, the sports editor for the Gazette, made a list of top 10 sporting events that happened last year, and he was not included. At least I didn't, unless I missed it. Him winning the Sullivan Award was not included in that top 10. That's how much we take it for granted. So
he was in my top 10. I'll just put that out there. If you haven't seen my top 10 moments, his title haul was number 2 on the list of mine, behind just unfortunate and disappointing cancellations of the Winter Championships. But I'll just put that out there. But the one thing I thought was interesting, and maybe even a little bit fitting on a couple levels. One, when he was 8 years old, he mentioned he got a picture taken with Dan Hodge at the Tulsa tournament. Boy, I don't want to be too hyperbolic here, but that's one legend shaking hands with a youth that pretty much is going to go on to be a legend of the sport when it's all said and done at that time. Imagine being there for that snapshot. And second, Mike Chapman was there. Obviously, a lot of people know Mike Chapman from He started the Wrestling Museum, which is now the Dan Gable Museum. He started News Magazine. He was there, and him giving the history of Dan Hodge. And I mean, I thought I knew Dan Hodge. Obviously, I just knew of him after listening to Mike Chapman talk about just how dominant he was. And it was one of those things where, you don't realize he won a national tournament. And then he went on to like a freestyle tournament, won that, and decided, oh, hey, there's a Greco-Roman tournament. I never wrestled that. I'll try that. At the same location where he won the freestyle title and pinned his way through, and then pinned his way through the Greco-Roman tournament for the first time that he ever competed in it. So like he won 3 national titles within a short span and pinned his way through all 3. And then he ended up his boxing exploits. He was like 15-0 with 11 knockouts, 14-0 with 11 knockouts, and won a boxing title. So there's a parallel there with that dominance that we've seen from Spencer Lee and the dominance that is encompassed in the Hodge Trophy, and it going to somebody that kind of mirrors that dominance. And interestingly, he's the last named Hodge Trophy winner while Dan Hodge was still alive. He passed away in his late 80s on Christmas Eve here in 2020. So real fitting, and I just thought it was real interesting listening to the history that even I was oblivious to when it comes to Dan Hodge.
And of course, when Mike delivers stuff like that, he has a way of delivering that history, and I don't know if embellish is the right word, but of presenting that kind of history to because I've heard him speak of others. I've heard him speak of like Dan Gable and so on, and he just does a great job with that history. And like you said, he you think you know somebody until he delivers the message, and it's something else.
Right. And with Mike, he's the originator of that award. I believe he and One Magazine when he was the editor. So
yes,
back on his. So the Hodge Award was his brainchild, and what a neat thing it's been since 1991, maybe 90, somewhere like that.
For 94, 95, I think T.J. Jaworski was the first one to win it from North Carolina. So I think it was early 90s, early to mid 90s when it began.
And only 3 Iowa Hawkeyes have won that award.
You coached one of them.
Oh yeah, that's right. I think he coached me.
Yeah. Okay. As Dick's referring to Mark Ironside and Brett Metcalf, the two to won it beforehand, and that's saying something. What I thought was interesting, Spencer Lee became the first person to ever win the Hodge Trophy and the Sullivan Award. Now you got to keep in mind too that there are some individuals like Bruce Baumgartner. It'd be Ruan Gardner. John Smith that won the Sullivan Award. John Smith was wrestled before you had the Hodge. So you got to keep that in mind too. But still, pretty interesting that Spencer Lee becomes the first to win both Sullivan and the Hodge in the same year.
And speaking of the dominance, because I think back, some of my favorite matches are of Mark Ironside and Spencer Lee. I've gone back and rewatched a couple of those numerous times just because I enjoy them so.
Sure. during that ceremony too, Tom Brands and Spencer both talked about the award and the season coming up. Iowa certainly loaded again, if not even more so than a year ago. You're essentially swapping out Pat Lugo for Jaden Ironman, which is still same level of potency there. Looks like Ironman will be at 141. Max Buren moving up to 149. And then you've got all the other pieces in place. The one question mark, maybe 184. Is it Nelson Brands or is it Abe Assad? See if that competition has changed much from a year ago. But the one thing that seemed to be the bigger message, and I'm sure you guys saw the clips, that Tom Brands was very fired up about the fact, and I know, Dick, you're pretty passionate about this too, that you can't have a season end the way it did, like it did last year. That these individuals have to be able to get to an NCAA tournament, however that might be. But he was very fired up that it has to get to the end.
Yeah, I have mixed emotions. You're exactly right. And I believe that it needs to get there as well. We kind of mixed emotions with how they go about testing and how, and that sort of thing. I don't know. I'm not, you hear false negatives and false positives and all that sort of thing. And if you're going to do it 3 times a week or daily or whatever, you're going to probably find some cases along the way. And then how do you deal with that? We don't do that in high school. So, it seemed like we got through the summer sports, the fall sports pretty well. And, so I don't know, do you test too much? I don't know, is that, and I remember I have a son that's involved in that too. So, I have to look at the not just the sport aspect, but his health aspect. So, and I'm still, scratching my head as to what's right and what's wrong, so not right. So,
and I think that's probably the case with a lot of people, in the fact that you don't know what's the proper protocol to go about it.
Yeah, and I don't have the answers. I wish I did, but obviously I don't. And won't pretend to. I did think it was interesting though that, and I didn't realize this exactly, that after everything was shut down, obviously facilities were out of the question for programs and stuff, but Iowa Wrestling returned to Carver Hawkeye Arena June 8th. They were one of a handful of test groups that were allowed to come back and monitored and pretty much set the tone for or kind of start the path for other groups and to figure out how this was going to work. I thought that was pretty interesting, especially given the concerns with wrestling, with it being person to person, but its history. They've dealt with communicable diseases for many, many years. Talked about this with some coaches. It almost seemed like wrestling is a perfect, not necessarily guinea pig, but group to kind of deal with this head on, because they have dealt with things similar, not the same, obviously not the same at all, but similar in the past.
Well, it's exactly right. You're talking, like different types of skin infections that are communicable and that sort of thing. And those haven't gone away, but they're certainly not in the forefront anymore.
Yeah.
So concerned with the COVID I think wrestling is that kind of sport.
But at the same time, I think the wrestling programs are taking more time to disinfect the mats. That eliminates a lot of those skin infections as well.
Right. Why you and I were at Coconut. Okay, thank you. Last weekend, and they had to have, I was roughing, you were working, and they had to have disinfected the mats probably 5 times during the day, maybe 4 or 5 times. And, right in the middle of a round, they would just run it right through. They'd stop the mat and disinfect one and go to the next. So, and then other schools, they have all sorts of hand sanitizer around. They're disinfecting the leg bands and some refs are wearing masks. I wear a shield and have worn both, and then some are not wearing any. They're not mandated to wear anything, but I think everyone's being cautious and doing no contact with the wrestlers and with the referee.
And also, the other thing with that, as far as disinfecting the mats, them ultraviolet disinfectants, when they do the mats, as soon as he goes over it, you can hop right back on the mat and start wrestling. You don't have dry time or anything that you do when you have the spray cleaner.
Right.
And Dick and I we saw one of those at work at Xavier when we were at the Xavier Hempstead duel earlier. It's kind of pretty neat. We've seen pictures of Williamsburg using that to disinfect their wrestling room. So it's pretty cool how technology has kind of stepped in there as well. Now with the University of Iowa, obviously, you've got Lee at 125. You've got Austin DeSanto, who's a title contender. I believe Jaden Ironman is stepping in as the number 1 ranked guy at 141. You got Murin, Caleb Young. Then you got Marinelli, a 2-time NCAA champ or Big Ten champ. You've got Michael Kemmerer, who's a title contender, and you've got Asada Brands at 84. You've got Warner and Cassiope that really closed with 2 good All-Americans there, and a lot of fun. I mean, is this just going to be an extension of last season when it comes to, it's theirs to lose and everybody else is wrestling for second place?
I think so, but you've got some new kids on the block also. Michigan's back in there, and they've got 3 that I can come up with, 3 off the top of my head, title contenders of their own. A solid 10. You've got North Carolina State, who brings a lot of good wrestling as well. I'm shocked at how strong they appear to be right now. So good for them.
Just like a lot of the
coaching down there.
A lot of the other schools, you think you can take it for granted that it's theirs to lose, but you've seen it at the high schools where it does happen. So it's not like you can't take it for granted. They've still got to go out and earn it.
They start the season January 15th with a home duel against Nebraska. The season is going to be condensed, as we've mentioned. I believe they have 9 conference duels on a 7-date regular season. Then they'll have the Big Tens at State College and then the NCAAs in St. Louis. Both of those in March. But looking at their schedule, first, I want to know what you guys think about the fact that it is a conference-only schedule. And, of course, that's mandated by the conference, not by Iowa or any other programs within it. And secondly, even though it's a conference only, you're looking at 5 teams in the top 7 of the national rankings, and Iowa's going to face 4 of them within like a 4-week period.
I guess my thing would be you could wrestle more than that, being we're in this short of a season, and I don't know how much recovery time you need between duels to have another duel, and also I guess I don't understand why, and maybe I'm stepping on people's toes, but why they don't have some more non-conference duels.
I had that same question. I don't see what the benefit of conference only in the Big Ten. I mean, Iowa State's outside their conference. You've got a lot of others that are outside their conference, and I don't know what their thinking is. You have a thought on that, KJ?
I don't know. It's just been their power. I mean, they did it with football. It's kind of interesting. They don't do it with basketball. I know talking to the wrestlers and coaches, they'd wrestle whoever, whenever. But I don't exactly know why. I'm just guessing it's to try to limit contacts and who they come in contact with. But then again, I don't know specifically.
Well, one thing with the Big Ten is they don't have to go outside the conference. They have, like you said, the best quality of wrestling in the conference, so they can afford to do that. Some of the other conferences can't. So.
Let's head back to the Big 12. Let's head out up to UNI. They had their virtual media day yesterday. Coach Schwab. I tell you what, love listening to him talk. He was fired up yesterday. This is going to be kind of a little bit of a new look team. I said they have 9 new faces going into their duels this opening weekend against North Dakota State and South Dakota State at Brookings, South Dakota. So outside of Carter Isley, the rest of the lineup weren't starting at the Big 12's last March. So he's preached over and over again. He doesn't want UNI to be a one-hit wonder, to where we have one good season, then we fall off for a handful. He wants this to be a year in, year out, reload kind of thing. And I think this will be a good test and a gauge to see where they're actually at as far as that goes.
I think it'll be an interesting lineup and interesting to see where they sit this year, for the simple reason they do have that basically new look lineup. And I guess we'll find out this weekend when they have the couple of duels. But I think it's, especially when with all the Iowa kids in there, we followed them all through high school, and so to me, that's what the fun part will be, just because we followed them for 5 or 6, 7 years already.
Right. And I think UNI's a pretty young team, but boy, do they have potential, I think. And it's just we're just gonna have to watch them grow, and they're gonna have to make mistakes and that sort of thing. But I think that they've got 2 teams that are kind of in that same boat, or at least at that same level. So that's a good starting point for them to get the 2 meets in Saturday. And I'll let you, KJ, mention the uniqueness of the lineup that is the four kids. So go ahead.
Yeah, 4 of their starters right now are going to be Fort Dodge Preps. You got Brody Teskey at 125, who went out to Penn State for about a year and a half and then came back home. And then you've got Drew Bennett, who will be stepping in at 141 now that Michael Blockus has moved on to Minnesota, I believe. And then you've got the Laras at 149, Tristan at 149, and Cade at 157 stepping in. So you've got 40% of your lineup from one high school teammates. I want to say, I'd have to go back and look at or listen to the audio. I want to say Schwab estimated it's been since like the 1940s, since 40% or 4 people from the same high school were on the same D1 lineup. It
was with Cornell when they won the national titles. They had the 4 kids, I believe it was out of Waterloo.
Okay. So Cornell College,
right.
What is it, 47?
I think it was 47.
Okay. So you're looking at 70 to 80 years since something like that happened. I thought it was amazing the year that Borschel and McDonough both won national titles. That it was 20% of the national champions were from Linmar. I thought that was really neat. But here to have almost a half of a D1 lineup being from the same group that won a state title in 2018 for Fort Dodge, that's pretty neat. That's a pretty cool situation for them and for others.
And also, listen to the Schwab at the press conference. Now you have 40%, or you have your 4 teammates from Fort Dodge. Now let's make it 4 All-Americans from Fort Dodge and really make a point, and make history. So I thought, he's fired up about this team.
And he even said 4 national champs.
Yes.
Not just All-Americans, but he added let's go win 4 national titles together, and then it'll really be something. And he really wasn't shy about talking about the chips on their shoulders. That a lot of people must have really blown him off when talking about his team, saying, "Oh yeah, you've lost Lujan and Thompson and Steyer and Schwarm and those guys." Right. We're not going to have Jacob Holschlag back because of injury again, unfortunately. But he really seemed to say, "Hey, people have already told us we don't look very good, but I like the way we look," and that can light a little bit of a fire under a wrestler or a team.
Yeah, and to continue with their lineup, you mentioned the 4 of the weights. At 33, you've got Biscoglia and Skazlarczyk, who's been a 2-time Letterman form, I believe, and then also a national qualifier last year. Then you've got Austin Yount, Waverly Shellrock wrestler at 65, and is it Kekison at 74, and he went 6'5" with Assad last year, and for his only loss on the year, 14-1. So solid wrestler there at 74. Keegan Moore, who's out of Minnesota. We wrestled him up there, Jackson County, and boy, when they were in high school, they were very, very good. And then Tyrell Gordon, 97, and you said Isaac heavyweight.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned Kekisen. Saw him at U.S. Senior Nationals at Extreme Arena in Coralville in October, and I was really impressed with his offense and his skill on his feet. He's somebody that can get a lot of takedowns, and he's somebody that can score points and could be exciting there at 74. And Keegan Moore is somebody that I think a lot of people might sleep on, to be honest with you. 3 years ago, he was a national qualifier for Oklahoma State as a freshman. He's rolled around with Drew Foster and Taylor Lujan the last 2 years, and now he's finally getting his first shot to put on the UNI singlet. And I think he's somebody that can turn a lot of eyes over the course of the next 2 months. It might be somebody that I don't want to say, shock people, but I think he's going to gradually gain attention and go, oh, yeah, he's pretty good as the season progresses.
And I think he's also kind of got the same type of style as Taylor. I don't want to say funk, but
wide open.
Yeah, it's wide open. Yeah, he just likes to let it roll.
I'll disagree with that. No one has that style.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Point taken, though. Right.
Well, hey, any other general comments about college as we're going on? I know Grandview has been doing Grandview things from the start. I want to say they set a record for consecutive dual victories. We'll have JUCO getting off to start. American Rivers Conference will start their unique schedule, even though, we mentioned Wartburg and Loris, but their actual conference duels will begin here January 23rd. They're wrestling pretty much triangulars each Saturday before the regional tournament. Cornell won't start really until February with a couple duels, and looks like they're just going to have a couple duels and then off to the regional tournament. So we're finally getting into the thick of things, and it's going to be different, but they'll still be wrestling at least.
Yeah, I had a couple of comments. One regarding Upper Iowa, who actually meet tonight. They're wrestling Northern State University, which is out of Aberdeen, South Dakota. I wouldn't have known that, but Wartburg wrestled them last year at the Desert Duels, and I asked their coach where they're from. But anyway, Upper Iowa is currently ranked 20th, and of course, St. Cloud State is ranked number 1 in D2. Go figure. And they were so dominant last year. And then Upper Iowa has 4 kids that are currently ranked at 141. Tate Murdy is ranked 9th. Chase Lunsman at 157, whom we know is ranked 8th. At 174, Myron Crawford is 12th, and they ranked 12. And then at 184, Dalton Hahn back, and he's ranked 8th to start out the season. So Upper Iowa's going there. Some other ranked kids that, off the top of my head, I didn't look real close, but that we've talked about and are kind of area guys. Tanner Sloan, ranked for South Dakota State, basically 8th across the board, and then at the different rankings. And then some others, Alex Thompson, is ranked, and Zach Price, and then Blockus up in Minnesota, I think, is ranked as well. So, are there any others that you might have caught?
Wyatt, are you aware of any?
Yeah, no, the only thing I was going to say is, speaking of the college, is in a couple of weeks, with the women's wrestling really getting a boost, William Penn is going to host a double duel, a men's and women's meet here in a couple of weeks. So I thought that was kind of interesting, I guess. A men's and women's dual meet.
For sure. And that'll be coming up. Do you have a date on that?
The 29th.
29th. Okay. So we'll look forward to that as well. Coming up here soon on the women's front, which is continuing to grow. Hey, let's do something fun really quick. Kind of reached out to some of the followers on social media and stuff like that with just 5 random questions, just to kind of break between here, college and high school. So I asked them for 5 just random and entertaining questions for us to answer. And I picked one. We'll pick one of the 5 that we use once we get off camera. We'll draw, and the winner of one of these 5 will get some sort of prize, whether it be some merchandise from the Predicament or the Gazette or one of their partners or something like that. But here, let's first off, what is your favorite hotel chain? We all end up traveling quite a bit for wrestling and other things, but what's your favorite hotel chain?
Well, I'm kind of a cheap guy, so I would almost say the Holiday Inn Express.
Okay. All right. I'm going with DoubleTree.
Hey, I will say though, I was up in Fargo here a couple of years ago, and it's at Wood Springs. It's a long stay type hotel, and that actually wasn't too bad, except you got to change your own sheets and change your own piles. But like I said, I'm one of the tight ones, so.
Sure. I like the DoubleTree. How could you go wrong with the warm cookies when you check in? That's where I go.
You know what? I can't even think of a hotel name. Someone's going to leave a light on for me, I know, and there's probably a roof over someone's head. But I'm like you, KJ. Wherever the cookies are warm and ready.
Yeah, and not the large city hotels where the hide-a-bed has a slit down the middle and a crack pipe stuck in it, right?
Yeah.
Not those hotels.
Pittsburgh, yeah.
That's obviously inside joke with Briggs and I and our venture to Pittsburgh for the NCAA championships one year. But where is the best cheeseburger that you've ever eaten?
Oh, cheeseburger.
Where did you get your best cheeseburger?
Well, I mean, to me, it's the super cheeseburger in town here. It's not a chain. It's the super cheese. Yeah.
Yeah, the Starlight Room.
I'm also special to the Buzz Burger at the Union Station. Those are my two favorites.
Okay.
You know, and I'm on a, like I said, I'm a kind of a tightwad. So if I go to a restaurant or something, it's not a cheeseburger. I'm going to get a steak. So probably my cheeseburger is McDonald's. So
okay,
that tells you my level of money, I guess.
So one of the things with the Midlands Championships, which is a bummer that got canceled this season, but we've turned it into a family trip. As you guys know, Chris and the girls go shopping and stuff while I'm working, and we always try to hit someplace in Chicago that we normally wouldn't go to. And the best cheeseburger I ever had was at a place called Assembly American Bar and Cafe. I tell you what, we got there during their holiday season. They had a holiday burger that had Swiss cheese and cranberry sauce on it that was fantastic. And they also had like a jalapeno burger that was awesome as well. So that was one place. If you're ever in Chicago, try to look that up if you're near Hoffman Estates, because it was fantastic. If you could pick any sports talent, what would it be and why?
Any sports team?
Talent.
Oh, talent.
Any athletic talent, what would it be?
Oh boy. Boy, I don't know. Probably a guy like Emmitt Smith.
Be like Emmitt Smith?
Yeah, like
I would go for super speed. I think that would benefit me for anything, and even in real life, whatever sport you're doing. I think if you've got speed, that's something that translates and you could use in everyday life too. So I'd go with super speed.
Are we talking talent or individuals here?
Talent. Just
oh. Yeah, like I've ever been a speedster.
I'm gonna have to go with the. It's kind of an extreme sport, but with the rock climbing talent and the strength that those guys have and endurance, man, like the three of us, I got to believe Nathan's we got the build for the rock talent, rock climbing.
Yeah, I think I'd have to go with KJ. I think in the speed because to me that'd be a lot of athleticism as well.
All right, Skippy or Jeff? Skippy. Okay. I'm going with Jeff. I'm sorry, I got to go the other way there. And then here's the last thing. I don't know if you guys have watched Cobra Kai, but somebody wanted to know: are you Team Johnny Lawrence or Team Daniel LaRusso?
I haven't watched it.
Okay.
What was the first one?
Team Johnny Lawrence, who was part of the Cobra Kai, or Daniel LaRusso.
Oh, I'd have to go with LaRusso.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm torn. I go either way. I tell you what, if you haven't seen Cobra Kai, watch it, Dick, because it's interesting and it's fun how they've kind of turned it to make Daniel more of the antagonist and make you feel more for Johnny. I'm torn. I'm going right down the middle. I'm both. I'm playing along, especially after watching the last season 3. I'm both. I can't make a choice. So that was kind of fun. Now we'll get ready for our preps and everything. And with one of the segments, that was a new segment like this returning segment. Dick, you make the call. Those are always neat. Why don't you hit us with that before we touch on prep wrestling so far this year?
And Dick, before you ask that question, do I need to study for this?
No, I don't think you'll need to study for this one. I made it pretty simple. Hopefully you guys can start out both getting the right answer. So, and it's, I thought it's the beginning of the season. So what about the beginning of the dual meet? Okay, so my question is, what is the purpose of the referee gathering before the meet with the team captains and coaches to flip a coin? Why do they flip a coin? So Wyatt, this is two-part. There's two answers to this. Wyatt, give me one, and then KJ, give me the other.
The purpose of the flipping of the coin is to see who gets to approach or pick the starting weight. Not the starting weight, but the choice. Yeah, that's the word I was trying to get at.
Choice of position in the second group, I think is what you're trying to say. Yep. Okay, that is correct. Okay, and the other reason for flipping the coin, KJ, now you're down to one choice, so a little tougher for you, I guess.
Yeah.
But he had to give me
my go-to answer.
I'll give you a hint.
Okay, I'll take a hint.
In the past, Jefferson and Prairie had some humdingers of wrestling meets, and the flip of the coin cost us, I believe, winning the wrestling meet.
Wow. So,
so what else happens on the?
Who has to report first?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I kind of had a. Yeah. So what the odd or even matches as far as who has to come out and report first, and that can affect
matchup
strategy. Yeah.
And so coaches, there's a couple of different coaches at Prairie would maybe bump up or down or hold, and depending on the coin toss. And I believe that if we'd have won the coin toss, we'd probably won the meet, but it didn't work that way. Go figure. Because we can get the matchup that we wanted. So that's important. At least at the high school level for sure.
Oh, that was cool. Okay. Wow. I was sweating it because Wyatt took one I was thinking of, and I had to. Thanks for the clue. I would have brain farted that if you didn't give me a clue. So thank you for.
And then one other thing I'd like to throw in here quickly.
Sure.
The Eastern Iowa Wrestling Officials Association. This is some statistics that Rick Helmrich shared with me. Rick joined the Eastern Iowa Wrestling Officials Association 12 years ago. He said at that time there were 105 paid members. This year there's 42.
Oh, wow.
And that's down 15 from last year. Now, some of that's COVID. Some guys aren't coming out on the mat because they're concerned with the COVID and that sort of thing. But our numbers in officiating have just plummeted in the last 12 years. And so if anyone's interested, please either contact me or go to Twitter or Facebook and look for the EIWOA.
Did you say that one? Did you say that one from 102 to what was?
105 to 42.
105 to 42. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's staggering.
There's big concern, and I'm getting today text from Louis Curtis and from some of the different associations. Now that's not the only one in the state of Iowa. That's Eastern Iowa. There's also one up in North Central Des Moines area, right, down south, and then out in Quad Cities. But this is one of the bigger ones, and numbers are way down. I'm getting contacts or information that they're needing some officials for tonight, for meets that are going on tonight. So anyway, if you're at all interested, please get a hold of us, and we'll be happy to get you going.
So prep wrestling has actually kind of somewhat been in its regular schedule a little bit. Unfortunately, kind of the tournaments we've seen some of the bigger tournaments kind of go by the wayside here. There's no Cliff Keen and Independence that we've had the last couple of years. No Battle of Waterloo. So that stuff has been different, but the teams and wrestlers have been out on the mat competing. So we had some semblance of a first half of the year. Are there any things that have stood out so far from the first half, or maybe even this first weekend that we saw teams come back here in January with some duels on the second?
The only thing I've been hearing out there is, and I'm not talking about your Cliff Keens and your Dan Gable Classics, your Battle of Waterloos. I'm talking about such as your Maquoketa's, your North Cedars. The coaches there are saying, we're not getting as many of these tournaments, but the tournaments we're getting into now are a lot stronger than they were in previous years because of the limited number of tournaments that there are.
Right. With the fragmentation that's happening, you're having the big tournaments that are, not going. And then so you've got teams that are looking to jump in if they can. You have some of the smaller tournaments. I'm going up this weekend to Brooklyn to BGM to ref for the second time this year. I've been to Williamsburg. So some of the smaller schools are still doing that. Plus, you're also seeing some. I think they're calling them dual Saturdays, maybe, or whatever. And boy, is there a monster one at I think Hampstead this weekend. You got, if I'm remembering right, number 1 Southeast Polk, number 2 Waverly Shell Rock, number whatever. I think I'm ranked 7th. Wyatt Ankeny. And then Hampstead is also ranked in the coaches poll, like maybe 18th or 17th, I guess. So those 4 teams are going to be battling. And we've seen Hampstead, KJ. They're not a bad team.
No, they've got some really strong individuals.
Kind of a sleeper team. So,
yeah, one of the things that you mentioned those duels on Saturday. We saw this last Saturday where Kennedy and Limar wrestled, 2 teams ranked, I think 13th and 9th. That Limar won. We saw Iowa City High and Iowa City West resume. That was the first time they got on the mat. They had they were off, and that was their first competition. Then we saw Prairie and Waverly Shell Rock wrestle, and that was Prairie's opener. But teams have had to just kind of reshuffle what they do or make changes and find alternatives, and it's really turned out to bring some entertaining matches. Limar and Kennedy, even though it was maybe a little bit of a lopsided score in favor of Limar, there were some really good individual matchups there, and you had 2 top 10 wrestlers, Kimakai and Ochiltree, wrestle each other to end the duel there that Ochiltree won, and that was exciting. And saw some highly ranked kids. And then you saw Iowa City High had a lead going into the last 3 matches, and Iowa City West had 3 straight pins to close it out and pull out a victory. So you're getting, like you said, Wyatt, a little bit, you're getting maybe something a little bit different on a Saturday, but it's still a really highly competitive alternative that coaches and ADs are trying to figure out.
And also, if you, and I'm sure you've noticed, KJ, but they're reshuffling their schedules and their lineups. You're finding some Monday and Tuesday duels that you normally haven't gotten in previous years. And the other thing is they're doing more triangulars or quads during the week that you normally didn't get, just so they can get some matches in.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Are there any teams or individuals that have really kind of stood out to you here so far? I'll just start seeing Lisbon take care of business when they were able to get on the mat. That's been impressive. West Delaware, saw them win their Bob Murphy Invitational. I think they went to DeWitt maybe and won a tournament there. They've been dominant. MFL Marmac, I tell you what, they had that stretch of really good teams that that just ruled the Upper Iowa Conference, and boy, they've got some really good. They've got balance and good individuals. They're a team that's off to a really good start as well, and of course, Southeast Polk. I think they've run a gamut here in the last week of duels. They've been very impressive, and Waukee. I tell you what, they're a team that you're going to have to keep an eye out for.
Right,
For sure.
and I don't have all the rankings, which I'm going to hopefully have released here. I don't have them in front of me now for this weekend, but I did look at the 3As a little bit, and Waukee probably has more ranked kids than any other team in 3A. They just don't have, but they had that duel with Southeast Polk, and you were talking about Southeast Polk's schedule. They had Don Bosco here a week ago. They wrestled Waukee the other night, and they got Waverly this weekend. And then that CIML is not a week conference, so they've got a season long tournament, basically.
Pretty much.
Well, and then with Waukee, we're going to get to see them. I know both of you are going to Benton Community. I believe they're at the Eckenrod this weekend, which is loaded to the gills.
Yeah,
I've gone to that, taken my team there for a number of years, and then even called some finals matches for it one year for you, Wyatt, on your feed. And I think this is by far the toughest year it looks to be. So I think you've got one in 1A, number one ranked 1A, number one ranked 2A, and you have
3 and 4 and 3A. But see, I went through it with my old rankings here the other day, and now this is the rankings as of right now. There's 12 number one kids at that tournament.
Wow.
And at one, I believe it's 180, was it 82? You have the 1, 2, and 3A number one ranked kids in that bracket. 7 ranked kids, and I kind of joked about the fact that, you could have a top 10 kid go 0-2 in that bracket. So, that's just, it's a loaded, there's 65 kids, I believe, the last count of ranked kids in that tournament.
Wow. And that tournament has, as Briggsy alluded to, that program or that tournament has been lights out for year in and year out. I mean, you've had individuals like TJ Siebold, Fort Dodge has come down there and wrestled. I want to say Siebold and McCool might have wrestled there one year before facing each other in the finals too, or something. But Centerville's been there. You've had Fort Dodge, you have Assumption, West Delaware, Don Bosco. I mean, you have some of the top teams, and even the teams that may not have been in title contention, but and can't forget Williamsburg, as well in that team mix. But you've had teams with individuals that step in and make that, Eddyville, Blakesburg has been there with their individuals as well. Jefferson, Independence, Union. I mean, oh my gosh! The more you look at the history of the Eckenrod, the more you just think, wow, this is a marquee event that, outside of us in Eastern Iowa,
Well, get a load of this. You have 16 teams there. 8 of them are ranked in the top 10. So you have half the field, and you're talking about teams that have your good individuals. Look at Centerville. They got a possible 4-time state champion, Matthew Lewis. They got Nathaniel Genabana, who's a 3-time finalist. And then you have somebody like Isaiah Weber out of Independence, who's a 2-time runner-up to Lewis the last couple of years. That field is just loaded this year.
I think Assumption also attends that, and will attend it this year. They've had through the years many great wrestlers come through as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
So North Lynn, Belle Plaine, been a part of that as well. So
KJ,
yeah, that'll be fun.
you mentioned if there was any teams that stuck out, and maybe not so much at the top level, but in terms of improvement and not being, showing very well this year. I'm going to shout out to Xavier in town here. They've done a nice job, good improvement. We got to watch them the other night and call that meet with they and Hempstead. But they've got some upper weights and middle weights, 45 and up, that are pretty solid, and their lighter guys aren't bad either. But so a nice improvement there. They had 4 champs at the Maquoketa, and then also Benton Shellsburg had 3 of them at Maquoketa as well. So a couple of teams there that kind of stand out to me that I've been able to see.
Yeah,
and good individuals at that tournament.
Just to follow up on the Xavier part, I was talking to Ryan Chambers after I saw that they'd won the Zimmerman invite, and he's been there 12 years. So he spent 2 years as an assistant to Craig Cadillac, and he's been the head coach for 10 years. That's the first tournament team title that they've won. So I know they've been really excited about this group. Remember Ivan Thomas, I want to say that he might have even started wrestling at maybe at 106 or 113 when he was a freshman. And, of course, he had some injuries and stuff and took a couple years off. He's unbeaten at 170 now, so he's made a lot of growth and a big jump, and is back out. And he pinned Nimley from Muscatine in the finals. So a nice win and part of that improvement as well for them.
I also like Kalen Shannon, long, tall, 60-pounder, is looking good. Of course, Christian Stanik's always done a great job, and I believe is undefeated up to this point. And then Ryan Volk was their 4th champion at 182. They had a couple runners up in the 3rd.
And that was a nice win for Volk. I didn't know quite what to expect out of that with the kid from Midland, but he went out there and pinned him in the first period. So I guess I was looking for a little stronger match, and Volk just handed it to him.
So speaking of Vinton Shellsburg, they're going to be at the Solon Duels this next weekend. Linmar has their dual tournament this weekend. That's usually a fun time. Trying to find the teams that might be there. I know usually Western Dubuque comes down for that. Mount Vernon
for the Linmar duels.
Yeah,
it's Clear Creek, Amana, Clinton, Marion, Mount Vernon, North Scott, Western Dubuque, and Xavier.
So Xavier will be there as well. But you got that group of teams of Linmar, North Scott, and Western Dubuque. That could be fun as well.
Yeah, some good tournaments this weekend.
Any others? I know Tomo's got one. BGM. Dick, you said you're going to be at BGM,
right? Yeah.
For the Stewart.
Yeah, there's. I'm not sure of all of the teams there. I haven't had a chance to look. I don't think there's any. Maybe Maquoketa, Monticello. Maybe one of those. Monticello, I think, comes over. Otherwise, there's kind of central and western teams. So I know the Highland. Did you mention that has one? And then
Highland, yeah, and
they've got a couple of ranked wrestlers,
right?
Schlinkball and Thompson, I believe, right?
Yeah. Highland has their own tournament there. Alburnet's down there, and
okay.
And then Marshalltown has some duels there with the Kennedy and City High, or and Prairie also, or at the Marshalltown duels.
Oh, okay.
Well, the Marshalltown duels, the way I understand it, is that the normal weekend of the Mendenhall, and they kind of broke it up a little bit to keep those teams there and made a dual format, and then go back to the Mendenhall for next year.
Okay.
All right, so that's kind of interesting. Yeah.
And so I think who's the other? Well, the Ames is the other host then, so they split it up that way.
Oh, okay.
See, and that's just that kind of innovation of, having to have to adapt and change. That a lot of people have said, if you want a season, you're going to have to do it, and just another one of those examples. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good idea because they didn't want to lose them teams out of the Mendenhall, and make another commitment. So they just adjusted a little bit and kept them together. And not only that, with a dual format, those kids are getting 4 or 5 matches on the day versus maybe going 0-2. So, which I think at this type of year is a pretty good idea.
So, Briggsy mentioned, are there any other general comments that either of you guys have about prep stuff before we kind of close things down for this first week? I'm just glad to be kind of back in the saddle again with you guys, talking a little bit of wrestling. But do you have any quick points to kind of mention?
No, I'm just kind of looking forward to the weekend and getting our rankings out, I guess, here shortly.
Sure. So you'll have those on the Predicament site this evening?
Yeah, within an hour.
Okay. So if you're watching, make sure to check the predicament.com for the latest individual and tournament team rankings. Where are you going to be at Saturday? I'm assuming you'll be at Benton.
Actually, I'm doing a lot more tournament, helping out with a lot of tournaments.
Okay.
So I got asked to run the tournament down in Highland. So that's where I'm going to be.
Okay. All right. So you'll be down at Highland running things for the Huskies. Dick, you mentioned you're going to be officiating at BGM. I will be at Benton. Matt Shannon will be there for running the show or helping with the Bobcat.
Yep, and I'm also going to get a little bit of help because I'm going to ask Shannon, because that way I take a bigger screen TV down to Highland. That way I can watch all 5 matches at Benton too. So
there you go, kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Exactly.
I will be at Benton on Saturday, covering that. Looking forward to that time. Dick and I will be on KCRG 9.2 this week. Jefferson and Kennedy, 2 first-year head coaches with Rob Martin and Nick LeClaire. So we'll have the call for that on KCRG 9.2. Hey guys, I just want to thank both of you for joining me again and another year of even though it's abbreviated of podcasts. So thank you. I'm glad that we've got wrestling to cover again.
Yeah, I guess I want to thank you because this is, of course, is a little different with the Zoom, but it worked out pretty darn well, I thought, and I appreciated it.
Yep.
I'll finish with this. I'm excited to be at Kennedy with their basically new gym. Just got devastated in derecho, and so we'll see how that new gym looks. For sure, that'll be interesting. Yeah, that's another thing we didn't even touch on, that we've all been affected by that storm that came through in August, and that's just a sign of us kind of getting back on our feet a little bit more with the Kennedy building finally getting repaired and stuff like that. So as they say, we'll keep moving forward, and thanks to everybody that's tuned in and watching us. And now we'll be back each week and virtually until we can get back in a podcast room together again when it's safe and we're all good to go. So for Dick Briggs, Wyatt Schultz, I'm KJ Pilcher. Thanks for watching. And Wyatt, send us out, bud.
Let's keep wrestling on the move.